Family, I think I'm on. All right, so what I want to talk today about is the payroll credits. I just got off the phone with the client explaining this, so I wanted to quickly do this just so I can have the information out there. I just want to say right away that this whole COVID-19 thing honestly has been a bit of a frustration for me. But that's life, right? The biggest thing that I wanted to say right now is just patience. Patience. This is something that's being thrust on everyone, and hats off for the IRS for coming up with stuff like this, so quickly. They've really done their jobs. Right now, their phones are off, but clearly they're still working. But again, I want to say patience because we don't know how this thing is going to be administered. Okay, there is IRS procedure manuals, IRMs. There's also IRS procedure man IPM. I may have it wrong, but anyway, there's IRS procedures that are public, right? So we can all see exactly how things are going to be handled, how things are going to be administered, and I have not seen anything yet for these. For this new law that's coming down. I'm sure it's being written now if it hasn't already. Um, and so anyway, again, patience. So let's go into this. So advanced payment of employer credits due to COVID-19. All right. Now, the first thing to notice about this is that there are only 3 quarters here. Okay, there's only 3 quarters. The first quarter of 2020 is not included here. Okay, this law goes into effect April 1st, and I believe that is why you don't have the first quarter here of 2020. Okay, now the first quarter payroll is due April 30th, and so a lot of these loans and grants and these payroll tax credits are going to be based on your payroll tax return. Which is why it's so important that we take a wait and see approach before going through any of this. Now, I'll tell you that I'm kind of taking the hit for the team in that regard, where I'm sending in just a bunch of stuff just to see what comes back. So far, I've sent in 4 grants for 4 different entities, different numbers, just to see what's going to come back. I'm doing the same thing with the advance payment here, and my thoughts on this is that, if I get the money, I'm definitely not going to spend it. It's just going to sit there. And then if I need to pay anything back, I'll pay it back. I will definitely want to file for the forgiveness. Again, that's something that we're going to have to wait for. I have not seen any forgiveness applications. I have not seen any forgiveness processes to go through. So we don't know what that's going to look like yet. We don't know how it's going to be administered yet. But it's definitely something that I want to do first before I can recommend it or advise it or charge money to do it for anyone else. Okay. So again, like I said, I'm just kind of doing this just to update people just so they have an idea what's going on. But I can't stress enough patience. Okay. Don't just run into this. It's not free money. I don't care what anyone tells you. It's not free money. I have done my best to illustrate that and demonstrate that. I did a video before on the COVID-19 individual payments. You see for yourself, it's not free money. It is a tax rebate. That's exactly how it is mentioned on the tax law. What that means, I don't know yet. We don't know until we see how it's administered. It looks like the payments are going to be the lower of your tax liability or $600. So we'll see. So anyway, let's go through this real quick. So this first part is simply asking what the most recent 941 was. Okay. Now, like I said before, first quarter payroll is not due yet. So this may give us some benefit if you paid yourself in the fourth quarter of 2019. right? So me personally, I pay myself once a year, and I pay myself the fourth quarter of 2019. So for me, this most recently reported 941 is fairly large because it's my income for the entire year, right? Okay. Next thing we have to take a look at is total employee retention credit for the quarter. All right. See instructions. All right. So let's go to our instructions here. And this is where we get into some of the fun of this stuff. Okay, so it says enter 50% of the amount of the qualified wages you paid to your employees so far in the current quarter. If you paid any qualified wages between March 13th and March 31st, include 50% of those wages together with 50% of any qualified wages paid during the second quarter for the second quarter total to enter on line one. Okay, listen here. They're already mixing this up and making this fun, right? Because what they're saying is that you're going to enter 50% of the total wages paid in the second quarter. Okay, so remember, when we fill out this form, we only have the option of doing second quarter, third quarter, or fourth quarter. We cannot do first quarter. It doesn't allow us to do it. But in the instructions, it says any wages paid between March 13th and March 31st, go ahead and include 50% of those. All right. Now, we are capped at $5,000, okay, because it's 50% of 10,000 per employee. Okay. So it says qualified wages may not exceed 50% of 10,000 for any employee for all quarters. So if you got 5 employees, then your cap is $25,000. Very simple, very straightforward. Again, I will, without knowing how this is going to be administered, okay, I will suggest that you only use the number of employees that you plan on sending a W-2 to in either 2019 or 2020, okay? Now, I'm sure everyone understands this. When you W-2 someone, you must pay Social Security and Medicare taxes on that money. It's 15% of the total wages. All right. Now, this particular thing is going to be a tax credit, but it's a refundable tax credit. We've talked about that in previous videos where you have a tax credit and you have a refundable tax credit. Refundable tax credits are cash in your pocket. So you will still have to pay the payroll tax, right? But you may receive some cash back in your pocket because of this credit. Okay, so let's say your payroll tax is, let's say, $2,000, just in this example. Okay, you'll receive a credit of $2,000, and then you'll receive cash of $3,000. Okay, now let's also look at it a different way. What happens if you get a $5,000 advance credit and your payroll tax is zero? Well, again, we're not sure how this is going to be administered, but I'm thinking that you will have to then pay the tax credit back. Okay, no different than Obamacare. Well, with Obamacare, you receive an advance credit for your healthcare expenses, right? And so if you do not qualify for that tax credit, you have to pay that credit back. And I think this is going to work the same way. So let's keep going because we're getting to some real good stuff now. It says qualified wages are wages paid for Social Security and Medicare tax purposes, okay, paid to certain employees during a quarter in which your operations are suspended due to government order, or during a quarter in which you have had a significant decline, we get that, significant decline in gross receipts. All right, now it says the law provides significant decline in gross receipts is the period beginning with any quarter in which your gross receipts are less than 50% of what they were in the same calendar quarter in 2019 and ending with the quarter that follows the first quarter beginning after the quarter in which your gross receipts were greater than 80% of what they were in the same calendar quarter in 2019. All right, so listen, it's this simple, okay? If your business, all right, was shut down due to a government order. Okay, now how are they going to determine this? It's all about the NACIS code, and I know I always say that wrong. I need to go ahead and pull it up and make sure I'm saying it right. NACIS. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, see, I always get it wrong. It's not NACIS. It's I have this saved on my I have it saved on my NACIS. There we go. I have it saved on my computer. It is actually, there we go, NAICS. NAICS. All right. So NAICS is the code that your business has on the tax return to basically explain what type of business you are. So if you're a restaurant, your code is something else. If you're a beautician, your code is something else. So that's how they'll know whether or not your business was suspended or due to shut down. Now, there's a default NAI. See, I'm still saying it. Is it NAICS? Yeah, NAICS. There's a default NAICS code of 99999. It's just all nines, okay? Now, again, we don't know how this is going to be administered, okay? There's been many times that I filed returns with the default code for the business. Most times, though, I use the actual code for the business because I want to make sure that everyone looking at this return knows what type of business this is so they can expect certain type of expenses and certain types of income and things of that nature because we always want the return to look good, right? So if you're using the default code, I have to assume that they're going to have to let that slide because if it's default, that means that it's not specified. So then if you say that your business was shut down due to a government order, they may have to prove otherwise in order for them to say no, it wasn't, right? Um, so anyway, so that's that. But very important going forward. NAICS code does make a difference in some cases. Okay. Um, the other thing is you're able to claim this credit again if you had a significant decline in gross receipts in the period beginning with any quarter, and gross receipts is the period beginning with any quarter. So any quarter is going to be first quarter of 2020, right? Because it's any quarter. All right. So if your gross receipts are 50% less than what they were in the first quarter of 2019, guess what? You qualify. Now, again, how is that going to be administered? I don't know. Are they going to ask for a profit loss statement? Or are they going to ask for bank receipts? We don't know. Unless you file estimated taxes, the IRS doesn't know what your gross receipts were in the first quarter of 2019 or first quarter of 2020. If you file estimated taxes, then I'm going to assume that they will know and that will be the proof. So if you do file estimated taxes, you want to make sure that you're using that information to do this particular credit. Okay. If you don't file estimated taxes, then I don't see how they're going to know whether your gross receipts are less than 50%. I don't know how that's going to happen. Like I said before, maybe they'll ask for a profit loss statement, maybe they'll ask for bank receipts if you're audited, but again, we don't know. No one's been audited for this form before, right? We don't know. There's no case law. There's nothing. This is brand new. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay, and it ends in the quarter in which your receipts are greater than 80% of what they were in the same calendar quarter in 2019. That can be never. All right. So again, this 7200 can be filed every single quarter of the year. I even read something that said that you can file this multiple times throughout the quarter. I mean, it's crazy. Okay, see here. New employers that did not carry on a trade or business in 2019 should see frequently asked questions. We're going to check on that as well. Um, and then, of course, this is for employers who have 100 or less full-time employees. Okay, the other thing that's cool about this is you're going to be able to include health care expenses. So if you are paying yourself health care, which means I have a lot of clients who have S corporations that pay their health insurance from the corporation, or what they'll do is they'll pay the health insurance themselves for their family, and then the S corp will reimburse them. Okay, their reimbursement goes onto your W-2 as income. Okay, and so those wages for the health care expenses will also be added into this total amount for the credit. All right, so let's just go in and we're going to assume that this is just one employee, right? So the max cannot be more than 5,000. I mean, can be more than 5,000. Okay. Now, second line says total qualified sick leave wages eligible for the credit and paid this quarter. Okay. Now, sick leave wages. Sick leave wages. For that, I want to take us to, and you know what? I wanted to talk about this first, actually, because this is something that I spoke to a couple people about over the last week, and it really blew my mind. I work for an employer that gave me, 80 hours sick leave pretty much right away. There was just no questions, no nothing. It was like, hey, you got 80 hours. Here you go, right? So I want to make sure that everyone sees this and understands this. Let me go to the top here, and then we'll come back. Let's see. I may have, yeah, let's do this. So let's go back because I wanted to talk about that, and then we can come back. Okay, I'm gonna keep it there. No. Here we go. All right. So I think this will be a better explanation. So what we're looking at is DOL.gov. It's a government website, so it's pretty good. U.S. Department of Labor. Okay. All right. So this begins April 1st. Okay. It says law effective today, April 1st, 2020. This is a temporary rule. Okay. So first, let's talk about this. So federally, there is no law that says that employees have to have sick time. There's no federal law, right? It's completely up to the employer. There may be some states out there that require it, but there's no federal law requiring it. So this temporary rule requires employers to give their employees sick time. Now, there are some exemptions, okay, but for the most part, every employer is required to give their employees sick time. So if you're working right now, if you're a W-2 employee, talk to your human resources, talk to your supervisor, talk to your manager, and ask questions about this because I've talked to a couple people that said that that nothing has been said to them about this. No one has told them anything about them having sick time at work. And so it looks like some employers are getting away with some stuff. Because it is definitely available. So this is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. This was the very first thing passed before the $1,200 and all that kind of stuff. This was the first thing that was passed. And it says requires certain employers to provide employees with paid sick leave or expanded family and medical leave. That's FMLA, okay, for specified reasons related to COVID-19, okay? Now, what are these specific reasons related to COVID-19? That's what's important, okay? And again, we see 2 weeks, 80 hours paid sick leave at the regular rate of pay. That's free money, okay? And it says if the employee is unable to work because the employee is quarantined, right? Or, this was important, or experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and seeking a medical diagnosis. Now, here's what I read when I see this, okay? From my understanding, and I may pull this information up, I didn't prior to starting this video, I apologize, but the CDC, I think, is telling people not to go to the hospital unless it is just absolutely necessary. They're not like, if I go to the hospital and I say, hey, I think I have COVID-19 symptoms, I'm seeking a medical diagnosis, I think they're going to send me back home. If I tell them, if I read off a list of COVID-19 symptoms, I still think they're going to send me back home. There may be some hospitals that are saying, okay, well, if these are your symptoms, then let's go ahead and get you tested, right? And then you'll be tested or whatever. But again, I don't know if that's happening everywhere. I have not been to the hospital myself. I do actually have someone I can reach out to and talk to about this, and I may do that. Be nice if I had her on the video. But anyway, again, experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. I've had this conversation with my supervisor already. I say, listen, I woke up tired. I'm not taking any chances. I'm not going to stress myself. I'm not going to do anything out of the ordinary. I'm going to relax. I'm going to rest, right? So whatever, I just take my sick time. All right, so this is for part-time employees. This is again just based on your. Oh wait, no, this is not part-time. This is okay. So this is if you're taking sick time for other reasons. Okay, this is important. So if you're taking sick time because you are caring for an individual, okay, or this is important, or caring for a child under age 18 whose school or child care provider is closed or unavailable for reasons related to COVID-19. I think that's going to be everyone with children under the age of 18. The kids can't go to school. School is closed. Therefore, you're caring for a child under 18. They didn't say under 13. They didn't say under 12. They didn't say under 17. They said under 18. Okay, now this is the law, right? Now, this is what every employer by now needs to have a good understanding of. Every human resources department needs to have an understanding of this. If they haven't, please educate them, right? So you are allowed 2 weeks up to 80 hours of paid sick leave at 2/3 the employee's regular rate of pay. Okay. And this is FMLA. All right. We all know what FMLA is. If you don't, you can read about it. There's an additional 10 weeks of FMLA available at 2/3 your regular pay. Same thing with, taking care of your child. It's available at 2/3 the employee's regular rate of pay. Now, there are some questions concerning telework, and I'll try to see if I can get to those really quickly here. Okay, so again, this is for private employers with fewer than 500 employees. See here. Small businesses with fewer than 50 may qualify for an exemption. So those are some of the exemptions. Okay. All employees are covered. All employees of covered employers are eligible for 2 weeks of paid sick time for specified reasons. Period. Okay. As long as you work for the company at least 30 days. All right. At least 30 days. And so this is the thing. So, right, it says qualified sick time if the employee is unable to work or unable to telework. Now, here's my thing, okay? I don't have any children here, right? But whose decision is it? Who decides whether or not I can work from home if I'm taking care of a child? According to this rule, according to this law, is completely up to me. Completely up to me, right? It says an employee qualifies for paid sick time if the employee is unable to work or unable to telework due to a need for leave because the employee is experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and seeking a medical diagnosis, or caring for a child whose school or his place is closed. I mean, it's simple as that. And then here's the funny one. Here's the catch-all: is experiencing any other substantially similar conditions specified by the Secretary of Health and Human Services in consultation with the Secretaries of Labor and Treasury. So you can go and read about whatever conditions Health and Human Services has decided to throw into this COVID-19 thing. Okay. Now, for reasons 1 through 4 and 6, 80 hours of leave, right? For reason 5, up to 12 weeks of leave. Okay, so let's go up there and look at 5. Look at this. Caring for a child whose school or place of care is closed. And so for that reason, full-time employee is eligible for 12 weeks of leave. 2 weeks of paid sick leave, followed by up to 10 weeks of paid expanded family and medical leave at 40 hours a week. Okay. The max, of course, there's a max because, it can't go too crazy, right? It's $511 per day. This is also going to come into effect when we're calculating the pay here for our credit, right? It's $511 per day is the max. And then if you're taking 2/3 of your pay, it's capped at $200 per day. All right. Um, and okay, so that's all there. The other thing that was important to talk about when it comes to sick leave, I said I was going to come back to it. Um, so this is just kind of a facts sheet, okay? And of course, I'll put all of these links in the description of the video. Here we go. Can my employer deny me paid sick leave if my employer gave me paid leave for a reason identified in the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act prior to the act going into effect? Okay, so if your employer gave you sick time before April 1st, can they deny you sick time? No, no, they cannot. Can't do it. Okay. Um, is all FMLA paid leave? No. The only type of FMLA that's paid leave, expanded, is the leave taken for a child whose care is closed, blah, 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 right? Okay. Of course, they're not retroactive. You can't go back and get this stuff for January. It's not going to work. You got to be employed at least 30 days. You definitely want to keep documentation. Here we go. What documents do I need to provide my employer to get paid sick leave or expanded FMLA? You must provide to your employer documentation in support of your paid sick leave as specified in applicable IRS forms, instructions, and information. Okay. Your employer may also require you to provide additional in support of your expanded family medical leave. That's FMLA. We all understand that. FMLA is going to be, a bit more involved when trying to claim that through your employer, because a lot of employers do not want to give out FMLA, right? But it says your employer may require information. This may include a notice of closure or unavailability from your child's school, place of care, or child care provider, including a notice that may have been posted on a government school or daycare website. Simple. Um, You're unable to work if your employer has worked for you and one of the COVID-19 qualifying reasons set forth prevents you from being able to perform that work either under normal circumstances at your normal work site or by means of telework. If you and your employer agree that you will work your normal number of hours but outside your normally scheduled hours, then you're able to work, and leave is not necessary unless COVID-19 qualifying reason prevents you from it. Listen, again, like I said before, if I'm experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, I may not be able to work. That's me. If I'm tired, right, with fatigue, that's one of the reasons I can't work. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to stress myself and tire myself for purposes of benefiting you, right? If there's clearly a law in place that says I don't have to do that, right? Um, it says, if I am or become unable to telework, am I entitled to paid sick leave or expanded medical leave? If your employer permits teleworking, and you are unable to perform those tasks or work the required hours because of qualified rate, then you're entitled to take paid sick leave. Period. Simple as that. That's simple. Okay. Um, Same thing. Then you're entitled to take expanded family medical leave, FMLA. Okay. So sick leave, FMLA. Um, May I take paid sick leave or expanded medical leave intermittently while teleworking? Yes. Again, this is what I didn't take the whole. I'll take an hour. Give me an hour of sick time. Give me 2 hours of sick time. Right. I can work after I rest. Okay. So yes, if your employer allows it, if you're unable to telework your normal schedule of hours due to one of the qualifying reasons, in that situation, you and your employer may agree that you take paid sick leave intermittently. There you go, while working from home. Again, if you have children under the age of 18 and you're working from home, I mean, guess what? Take care of your kids. Spend time with your kids. Be there with your kids. I understand you're working from home, but there may be times where your child needs your attention, right? Screw work. Take sick leave. Give your child that attention, even if it's for 30 minutes, even if it's for an hour, right? It's available for you to do it. And this is the documentation that you'll need to go about getting it. But people need to know this information to begin with, right? Once you know this information, then you can take it to your supervisor, you can take it to your manager, you can take it to human resources. But if you're not doing that, then none of us will be able to take advantage of this, right? So again, this is a very long um, piece of information here. It's all facts, just questions and answers. Okay. If my employer reduces my scheduled work hours, can I use paid sick leave? No, of course not. You can't substitute no, it's not going to work. So there's a bunch of stuff here. Take your time and go through that. But most importantly, though, here we have total qualified sick leave wages eligible for the credit. Okay. Now, what are total qualified sick leave wages? We've already talked about that, right? It's 80 hours. Okay. Now, remember, it's 80 hours. 80 hours times 511 bucks. I got to get rid of this thing. Yeah, 80. Wait. No, I did that wrong. Sorry. It's 2 weeks, so 10 days times $511 a day. So that's $5,110. That is the max. It can't get any bigger than that if you're paying $511 a day. However, like I said before, if you are going to do this, right, and you are saying that you're paying someone or yourself $511 a day, you better make sure that you file a payroll tax return also showing that you paid yourself $511 a day at 80 hours, right? So we're going to also do 5,000 there, or let's just max it out, right? 51, 5110, 5110. Okay. All right. Total qualified family leave. We're not going to mess around with FMLA. We can, but we're not going to mess around with it right now. So this is going to be 10, 110, right? All right. Total amount by which you have already reduced your federal employment tax deposits for these credits for this quarter. Okay, so again, this is going to be kind of playing around with stuff and testing stuff. Um, this is again just testing stuff. So the idea behind this is you can reduce your payroll tax by this credit now, right? Instead of waiting to do it later, because we don't know what the 941s are going to look like going forward yet, because remember, this is all for second quarter 2020. So for this, at this point, let's just assume that we're going to go ahead and take our credit now. Okay, let's just assume we're going to take our credit now. So we're doing $10,000 in wages, right? And then we'll do another, let's say, $10,000 in wages for the second quarter, okay? And then so the payroll tax on that is going to be $3,060. All right. Total advance credits requested on previous filings. Well, this is going to be our first time filing this. Remember, we can file this multiple times throughout the quarter. We can file this every quarter of 2020 as well. Okay. Add lines 5 and 6. Going to do that. And then we're just going to subtract that from our 10, 10. Did I do that right? I didn't do that right. 10, 110. There we go. So that gives us a credit of $7,050. Now, again, I've already sent this to the IRS. I don't know what the timeline is, but I'm waiting to see what happens because this is an advance credit and it's refundable. So $7,000 right now, it looks like. I don't know. I don't know. So, like I said, I'm kind of taking a hit for the team, just kind of see what happens, so then I can advise others on what to do going forward. I'm not advising anyone to do anything right now. Like I said, I just got off the phone with a client. I told them patience. We have until December 2020 to do any of this stuff. The other thing that I'll just throw in here, since we're talking about it, is the $10,000 grants from the SBA, which again is a loan. Okay, there is forgiveness for that loan, but we have not seen the forgiveness applications yet. And that forgiveness is based on, again, payroll. So taking both the payroll tax credit and the loan is definitely possible and doable. However, we don't know, again, how it's going to be administered and how that's going to happen. If you receive this advanced tax credit, um, does that cancel out the forgiveness on the loan? Um, will this advanced tax credit need to be basically paid back at any point in 2020? Um, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. The payroll tax on 20,000 is only 3,000. It's only $3,000, but they're giving us a credit for 7,000. And the idea is this credit is supposed to help me pay payroll. So I have to assume that when I file my payroll taxes for, second, third, well, at this point, third, fourth quarter, I think they're going to ask me what credits have I received thus far, and I'm going to have to then pay those credits back on top of my current payroll tax. That's what I think is going to happen. I really do. But we'll see. So that's that. I don't think there was anything else that I really wanted to discuss for this thing. Um, oh, I did want to talk about the business not active in 2019. Honestly, I don't think that's going to matter much. Maybe I'll do another video about that at some later point. Let's see, we already talked about that. Limits on sick leave, rate of pay, we got that done. And then, yeah, there we go. Line 8. You will need to report the amount of the advance that you request on your employment tax return for the return period, as well as the amounts that you requested on line 8 of other forms 7200 that you filed during the return period. So again, basically, this payroll tax credit is something that is going to be entered on your next payroll tax return. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to have to pay back the advance based on payroll. We'll see, guys. Anyway, that's it for me to you. I'll holla.